Welcome to the fourth installment of the Women in Tech series brought to you by the GBTA Tech Committee. Today's session is going to be moderated by my friend and associate, Francesca Dapparan. When we started planning this session, we thought about, what would be better than interviewing a woman in travel tech? And we quickly decided two women, of course. So today, it's my pleasure to welcome both Megan Humphries and Maya Bordeaux from ATPCO. Megan is the global head of corporate communications, so she oversees and runs all external, internal communications, developing actionable strategies to elevate ATPCO and drive increased engagement with analysts, media, customers, and of course, employees. Megan joined ATPCO after the company acquired Root Happy in February 2018, where she has since been on a fun learning experience on all things airline pricing, airline distribution, and all the beautiful complexities the aviation industry has to offer. I've never heard of that as a fun learning experience, but God bless. This Australian native is a fanatical traveler, having lived on 3 continents and visited more than 40 countries and counting. She is still passionate about decommoditizing air travel from her Root Happy days and is also a proud Bravo watcher. So hopefully we'll hear a little bit about that. But being a media junkie, she still gets a thrill from PR, of course. She graduated from Murdoch University with a Bachelor of Mass Communications with a public relations major. Now on to Maya. Maya Bordeaux is the Chief People and Culture Officer at ATPCO. For more than 25 years, Maya has driven progressive cultural change at multiple companies. She has extensive human resources knowledge with an expertise in strategic leadership, culture transformations, change management, employee engagement, talent management, diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as executive coaching. She's new to ATPCO since April 2021, so she's been identifying opportunities to enhance the experience of all employees by cultivating and extending ATPCO's culture. She is focused on promoting a more diverse, equitable, and engaged workforce that drives innovation and teamwork. Before joining ATPCO, Maya held senior leadership roles at McDonald's, Tribune Publishing, as well as Wilton Brands. She is an accomplished motivational speaker and holds a Juris Doctor degree and Master of Business Administration degree from Loyola University, Chicago, and a Bachelor of Applied Sciences degree from San Diego State University. Go Aztecs. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to my friend Francesca, and we'll get into the session. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much, Mike, and thank you everyone for taking time to listen, and thank you, Maya and Megan, for being here today. So before we dive into the fun questions, we'll do a little bit of an icebreaker, just to make sure everyone's comfortable. So this is for both of you, so feel free to answer. So as we start to open up the world once again, where will your first vacation be?
Well, so Friday, I'm going to Jamaica.
There you go.
Exactly. I just got back on Sunday from Puerto Rico, which was my first, I don't want to say post-pandemic because I don't want to jinx anything, but it was my first trip since March last year.
Very nice. And then my second question, since we are talking about women in technology or travel technology, who is your female role model?
So I suppose my mom can't count. So
Always count.
Okay, all right. Well, mom goes first, Oprah goes second. They both embody everything that I want to be, aspire to be, and, you know, in many ways already are. But very people-centered, believe in helping others, committed to being the best version of myself.
Can my answer be the same as Maya's? Except insert my mom, not Maya's mom, although I'm sure she's.
I was like, you know my mom?
Yeah, I'm sure she's fabulous. But I know it's such a cliche answer, but I was raised by a single mom who worked a full-time job and climbed her own corporate ladder. And so, yeah, she's given me a lot, still now to this day, a lot of inspiration, a lot of advice. And if she can do it, I can certainly do it. So.
And then my last one, again, because we are technology, what is your favorite piece of technology that is not your phone?
Mine is right here. It's my Peloton.
Oh.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I'm going to have to copy Megan this time and go with my bike as well.
You guys shared answers before this, I'm guessing.
Where we did it.
That's a perfect segue talking about, what we're going to focus on for today. Really, we want to discuss a little bit more broadly why it's so important for, technology and travel technology companies to hire women, especially on like the C-suite level. And Maya, you're a perfect example of this. You've only been with the company now for about 2 or 3 months, I believe. But your background was not in technology or travel for that matter, but that you came from a media company. So I'm curious, what are the main differences that you're noticing from a woman's perspective, going from that space now working with technology and ATPCO?
So great question. I would say the most noticeable differences is the environment, the company that I worked in was actually predominantly female. And just a slight predominance. It was like 52% female. And as you know, this technology and travel is a male-dominated industry. The other thing that I have noticed is the age demographic is slightly different in media, and particularly the Midwest region where I was leading. It skews much older than the median age of technology and ATPCO specifically. So the median or average age at ATPCO is 44 for our employees, and it was actually 54 in media. So that is absolutely important to how you think through strategies and provide programs for employees, because you have to study the demographics of the population that you are wanting to serve. And so we want to diversify our company at ATPCO. We want more women. We want more women in leadership. And we want to broaden the generational diversity that exists in the company as well. And so I think that'll be some key things that I will be focused on in my first year at ATPCO. And I've actually been there. This is my 8th week. Not that I'm counting, but this is my eighth week with ATPCO.
Well, I'm very impressed. It sounds like you already have a whole plan and vision for where you see the company going, which is fantastic. And I know they're going to benefit from it greatly.
Oh, tink you. Thank you.
And then for Megan, and it's another question to you. So you were in PR, and then I understand you were with Root Happy, who was more of a little startup compared to ATPCO now. So I actually started my career in PR, and I know it's typically a very female-dominated industry. So I'm just curious, what was your experience like going from that transition into the tech world?
Yeah. Well, it's really funny because, as you said, PR is very heavily female dominated. In fact, I think it's like over 90%, especially the agencies that I worked off in Australia, and I worked at 2 agencies here in New York City. And I found, and I entered PR more than 10 years ago, so I know so much has changed since then. But when I started PR, there was actually sometimes quite negative experiences, even with women. That, and I know now from a lot of my good friends who are still in PR, that is definitely on the change now. You're seeing much more women being a lot more supportive, but it was quite competitive when I had entered it, and in fact had an experience where not as many women as you would have hoped or wanted to have seen building you up. It's kind of like, we went through this 20 years ago, so you got to, you know, cut your teeth the same way we did. And I know, like, what I've taken out of that is, especially in the tech world, I found there's a lot of people, and not just women, but men who want to help you more, as in have a seat for you at the table. You still got to sometimes fight for it, right? But in PR, I actually found sometimes the opposite, right? With women not supporting women as much as you would hope, especially because it is so female dominated.
Yep, I definitely remember that, you know, if you were the last to leave, it was, or the first to leave, I should say, it was sort of frowned upon mentality of working in PR back in the day. So I completely understand. Looking at those, just the transition from when Group Happy was acquired to ATPCO, because like I said, you went from more of a startup to a much more established company. What was that transition like, if at all?
Yeah, I mean, we went from Root Happy Bob Albert, our founder, used to joke we were always approaching 20 staff. I think we ended on 18 when ATPCO acquired us. And obviously going from an 18-person startup, agile, small, gritty, rough, everyone does everything, you get your hands dirty, to a much more, 55-year-old legacy company. There was some really big changes there that the whole staff went through of Root Happy. But what I think has been great is that at first we all thought Root Happy might be acquired by a leisure channel, like say an Expedia or a Skyscanner, you know, our retailing data that powered flight shopping there. We just assumed a channel like that would acquire us. So when we found out ATPCO was the company that acquired us, I think a lot of people were shocked at first from the Root Happy side. But then the more we thought about that, the more we realized an industry-owned organization like ATPCO buying Root Happy means all of the work that we spent years building with our retailing platform, it means now all of the industry gets that. Corporate booking tools get it, GDSs get it, TMCs get it, leisure channels get it. And so it actually, in fact, I feel we were quite happy in the end, because it didn't become one channel kind of snatching the technology and the software for themselves. It became a use for all of the industry. But just going from a small team to the big team, I mean, seeing the industry knowledge that's at ATPCO, and like, there's just so many smart people there. You know, you've got to adapt to, maybe there's more processes in place that we weren't used to. I mean, we didn't even have a HR team, Maya, at Root Happy. So there's big changes that happen with this really small startup to a much more established company that has, you know, processes and all of that stuff in place. But with that comes really great things like bigger budgets and more opportunities to do things. And so overall, it's been a great experience. I wouldn't still be here if it hadn't have been. So yeah, lots of changes though.
Yeah, and I'm sure that we're quite a bit, but it sounds like you have a great perspective, and I love that on it, how it just gave you that much more reach and exposure to additional audiences, which is fantastic. So, you know, I know I was talking to you both before this, and there was a specific program that was mentioned that ATPCO is currently pushing. And I want to focus a little bit on that, since we are talking about women in the technology space. So that is called Lead from the Front. And that focuses on the various DEI initiatives that ATPCO is pushing. So, you know, this question is for both of you. Can you tell me a little bit more about that program and what it's about? And then as a follow-up, why did the company feel the need for this type of initiative?
Yeah, so I can jump in first, then Maya can maybe add any color she's kind of learned over the last 8 weeks or so. But what's cool about the Lead from the Front initiative is it was a completely employee-led program. It started from employees, in fact, women kind of rallying together to say, hey, we'd like to see something like this, and how can we get it off the ground? And so when we launched the program back in 2019, we had a launch event held at the Dulles, when you could do events in person, at the Dulles headquarters where ATPCO sits. We had over 200 people, which is like nearly half the company, attend the launch event. You know, we've now got over 125 active participants in the program, which really kind of has four kind of streams to it. One's an external stream, which is where we really encourage women and promote women to participate in other different women-driven leadership initiatives, like Women in Tech. And, you know, we've flown out our own members from Lead from the Front to conferences from Iceland to London to obviously different parts of America. We had them speaking on panels. And so there's an external component where we're encouraging them to do that. And then there is a mentorship program. So that's an internal mentorship program. We've got over 70 employees actively participating in that, both men and women. There's a training aspect to it where we're offering different leadership classes, facilitated on-site training when we were doing that pre-COVID. And then there's the community development aspect where, again, we would connect our members to different social activities and or like offsite things that might be happening in the space. And it was just really cool to see that, you know, when the initial bunch of women went to Rolf Perzer, our CEO at the time, you know, they went there really saying, you know, we don't want this, like we need this. And we think it's not just something, you know, for decoration, it's something that we think will help, you know, retention and engagement and our leadership skills. And we were really lucky that at that senior level, though, we got the green light, I mean, nearly instantaneously. And, you know, they gave us the resources, the money and the support to run this program ourselves. Yeah, and to see more than a quarter of the company join it and really get some great skills and knowledge out of it. It's just been really cool to see.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really, really impressive, Francesca. I have done diversity, equity, inclusion work with so many companies, both as a seated leader as well as consulting. And Lead from the Front is an example of an employee resource group. But the structure and the momentum that this group has had is quite exceptional. And at ATPCO, we will be focused in this next year on enhancing employee resource groups more broadly, with Lead from the Front being a shining light and example of what ERGs should be, how they should be structured, and there's an established charter and a mission, and you know, connecting the experience as whatever is the shared interest or trait or experience that the employees have to the business. And Lead from the Front has done an exceptional job at doing that.
I love that. And I love even more how ATPCO has really sort of embodied that. So I understand, you know, Maya, obviously you were brought on not too long ago and you're in a C-suite level. And then most recently it was announced that you have your chief commercial officer is also now a woman, which is amazing. And that brings me to my next question, which is there was an article published in the company Dime, which focused on, it was titled, Adding Women to the C-Suite Changes How Companies Think. So I wanted to share with you some findings that article had, and then I wanted to kind of get your opinion if you believe them, if not, so on and so forth. So some of the findings included that companies became more open to change and less open to risk when women were at the C-suite level, that companies shifted their focus to more merger and acquisition, from merger and acquisitions to research and development efforts. And then finally, that the impact of female appointments was greater when women were well integrated into top management, meaning more than one woman. So what are your thoughts on this? Do you believe them? Do you not believe them? Curious.
So yes, I absolutely believe it, have witnessed it, have experienced it. And what I mean by that is when you are a company that promotes diversity and specifically recruits women, women and people of color into the company, it enhances the business outcomes. It increases productivity. It inspires people across the company. Representation is so incredibly important because every employee has shared through survey data, through interviews over the years, that it's very inspiring to see someone in a higher level position that looks like them. And so when they have lived in a company, worked in a company or in an industry that is male dominated, typically all of the leadership are men. And what is typical for most companies across every industry is the higher you go in the hierarchy, the less diverse it is, the less women that are at the top, the less people of color that are at the top. So companies that do this well and, embrace and promote and support women climbing that corporate ladder have a highly engaged workforce. They are able to attract top talent. Most importantly, they are able to retain top talent. And so absolutely believe wholeheartedly in the findings in that article and have adopted those best practices into my leadership and coach executive teams everywhere to do the same.
Maya, it's interesting as well. Did you find from the article the thing I think that stuck out? Everything else was a bit like, yeah, duh. We already know there's endless studies about the impact. Like, and I don't mean it in a rude way. It's not like duh, but it's kind of like, it's no longer the right thing to do, which it is, but it's the smart thing to do. But in that specific article, I don't have as much experience, Maya, with your experience in diversity and equity and inclusion on that side, but where it said like that we're more open to change but less open to risk. I kind of got like stuck on that one a bit because I was like, oh, companies with more female leaders at the table are less open to risk. And I was at first like, oh, that's interesting because I hadn't thought of it from that point of view. I mean, some might say like women overall are more cautious or whatever it is. But from your experience, Maya, have you seen that like for that specific point?
So it's not a data point that I like carry with me, but when I read it, it did not cause me any surprise. One, because overall, I mean, and I hate to use generalizations, but in general, women are seen or surveyed to be more cautious. When you look at C-suite positions, where the women are most often seated are in the HR role or in the general counsel role, the legal role, the person who is responsible for mitigating risk. And so women are, most commonly in those two roles. So I could totally see the correlation based on representation data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was an absolutely great point, Megan. And I do agree that it was a little bit more, should be the standard now versus this is not a new revelation. So I'm completely in agreement with that on you. But I do love that people are continuously talking about this and this is still at the forefront of people's minds. I think it's always a conversation that we should absolutely be having. And with that, I'll ask my last question here for both of you. So, again, as women are not are typically the minority when it comes to travel technology and technology in general, companies versus men, what can travel technology companies do better to encourage women to get more involved?
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, right, is like the first thing is you have to make room for them to be involved, and not only make room for them, but promote that fact with your staff, like make it just unbelievably known, and not just with the women, right, with everyone at the company. Like, this is what, we're going to actively take these steps in order to, get more women involved and have a seat at the table. But, it's also about creating a leadership and management team that keeps this top of mind at every decision they're making and every meeting that's going on at the company or in every project that's getting off the ground. I mean, companies, I think, we should be aggressive about that and unapologetic about it. I think there's sometimes maybe in more the aviation field, there is sometimes that old white man mentality where you sometimes feel like you have to make Bob over there doesn't like, or like, we should stop feeling like, well, if one person, Bob over there, is feeling threatened or intimidated or whatever by this, then, he needs to either get on board with like, this is the directional of like, where we're going to take it and why it's not just what I said earlier, it's not just the right thing to do, but it's the smart thing to do because it leads to better business outcomes. So, I think companies just need to be saying what they're doing about it and not making any apologies for doing so.
Yeah, no, I agree with Megan, and I would say, in addition to unapologetic, but intentional. You have to be intentional, overt, direct about what it is that you are driving and why, and explaining to the organization why this is important for the organization to cultivate a more diverse and innovative work environment. I would say representation and resources are key. So you have to walk the talk. So you can't say it's important to diversify, it's important to support women in leadership, and then don't have women in leadership. So you have to first actually do what you say. And so representation is key, and then resources. Once you actually bring women into the workplace, you have to support them. You have to provide resources to support their success. So development opportunities, mentorships, as Megan said, creating safe spaces to be able to speak and believe and feel that she has an equal voice and equal footing. So, behaviors are so critically important to diversifying the organization and creating an inclusive environment where people come and want to stay. And so, do what you say and then create the resources so that people will actually stay once you recruit them to the company.
I love that. And even more so, like I said before, I love that ATPCO has really walked the walk, as you say. And I'm really excited to see what happens the next year or so with this program. And then now that you're on board, Maya. But thank you both so much. This has been an absolute pleasure, Maya, Megan. Thank you guys for taking the time to listen today. And with that, we thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. That was awesome. That was inspiring. I loved representation and resources, lead from the front. The smart thing to do versus the right thing to do makes a lot of sense, right? You can't have different outcomes, or you can't grow as an organization if you're all looking through the challenges through the same lens, right? We need different points of view there. I just did notice that the Fortune 500 just released their results, and we're at 41 CEOs are women. Clearly not enough, but up 20% since 2019. So hopefully as we get out of the pandemic, that trend will continue. And obviously for all of us, we'd want it to continue in tech specifically. But really appreciate it. We look forward to working with you guys moving forward. I think Francesca and I have some ideas about where to take the Women in Tech series to another level, a more actionable level in 2022. So really appreciate your input, your time, your energy, and we look forward to working with you in the future. So thank you. And thanks to everybody in the audience who came by to hear from us and our esteemed speakers. We look forward to seeing you in our next installment.